Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at Women Beware Women by Thomas Middleton. We're going into the last two acts, Act 4 and 5, to find out where this tangled mess of a court and surrounding environs goes, because there's an awful lot of entangled interrelationships going on, which we've generally found very dramatically satisfying in lots of ways, problematic in others. Do check any content warnings for this video. It's a tragedy, so there's going to be a lot of death, but we shall see where that all ends up as we come to the end of the tale. And reading, we have a wonderful read of readers. We might have additional people popping in later on, and some standbys. So reading today, First Lady and Livia is...
Hello, Samantha, Dent from Surrey.
Reading Brancha, or Bianca, it's usually modernised too. They both mean white, for Chef's reference earlier in the play, is...
Sarah Blake in The Hague.
Reading Leantio and Fabritio is...
Lynn in the northwestern United States.
Reading Second Lady Guardiano and Ganymede today is...
Hi, I'm Savannah Dillard. I'm from Oklahoma in the United States.
Reading Messenger, Sordido and Lord is...
Connor Robert Brown in London.
Reading Duke and Isabella is...
Lois, also in London.
Reading Hippolito is...
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Servant, A Voice Within, Ward and Hymen is...
Rachel in Canada, mercifully not in a heat dome.
And just joining us into the room in the nick of time, reading the Cardinal and Hebe is...
Hi, I'm here. I'm Eric. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted with other things, but I am here.
And Minister without portfolio, who will comment and or leap into action as required, is...
Sorry. Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm voting. If anyone survives, it's the guy we met in the first act, and he never turns up again until the last.
Okay, yes, it's a tragedy. Let's find out how many people survive. Book your tickets now. Roll up, roll up. Okay, moving swiftly on. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Brancha, attended by two ladies.
How go your watches, ladies? What's the clock now?
By nine, it's 4:09.
By mine, past.
I set mine by St. Mark's.
St. Anthony's, they say, goes truer.
That's by your opinion, madam, because you love a gentleman of the name.
He's a true gentleman, then.
So may he be that comes for me tonight, ought you know.
I'll end this strife straight. I set mine by the sun. I love to set by the best. One shall not then be troubled to set often.
You do so
You do wisely in it.
If I should set my watch as some girls do by every clock of the town, it would never go true. And too much turning of the dial's point or tampering with the spring might in small time, spoil the whole work too. Here, it wants of 9 now.
It does indeed, forsooth. Mine's nearest the truth yet.
Yet have I found her lying with an advocate which showed like two false clocks together in one parish.
So now, I thank you, ladies. I desire a while to be alone.
And I am nobody, methinks, unless I have one or the other with me. Faith, my desire and hers will ne'er be sisters.
Exit, ladies.
How strangely woman's fortune comes about. This was the farthest way to come to me, all who would have judged that knew me born in Venice, and there with many jealous eyes brought up, that never thought they had me sure enough but when they were upon me. Yet my hap to meet it here, so far off from my birthplace. My friends, or kindred, 'tis not good in sadness to keep a maid so strict in her young days. Restraint breeds wandering thoughts, as many fasting days, a great desire to see flesh stirring again. I'll never use any girl of mine so strictly. However they're kept, their fortunes find 'em out. I see it in me. If they be got in court, I'll never forbid 'em the country. Nor the court, though they be born in the country, they will come to it, and fetch their fools 1,000 mile about, where one would little think on't.
Enter Leantio.
I long to see how my despiser looks, now she's come here to court. These are her lodgings. She's simply now advanced. I took her out of no such window, I remember first. That was a great deal lower and less carved.
How now? What silkworm's this in the name of pride? What, is it he?
A bow in the hands to your greatness. You must now have 3 legs, I take it, must you not?
Then I must take another. I shall want else the service I should have. You have but 2 there.
You are richly placed.
Methinks you're wondrous brave, sir.
A sumptuous lodging.
You have an excellent suite there.
Oh, a chair of velvet.
Is your cloak lined, though, sir?
You're very stately here.
Faith, something proud, sir.
Stay, let's see your cloth of silver slippers.
Who's your shoemaker? Has made you a neat boot.
Will you have a pair? The Duke will lend you spurs.
Yes, when I ride.
'Tis a brave life you lead.
Could never see you in such good clothes in my time.
In your time?
Sure, I think, sir. We both thrive best asunder.
You're a whore.
Fear nothing, sir.
An impudent, spiteful strumpet.
Oh, sir, you give me thanks for your captainship. I thought you had forgot all your good manners.
And to spite thee as such, look there read. Vex, no, thou shalt find that I am not love-starved. The world was never yet so cold or pitiless, but there was ever still more charity found out than at one proud fool's door. And 'twere hard, faith, if I could not pass that. Read to thy shame there, a cheerful and beauteous benefactor too, as e'er erected the good works of love.
Lady Livia, is't possible? Her worship was my Pandrus. She dote and sent and given all to him. Why, here's a board-plagued home. You're simply happy, sir, yet I'll not envy you.
No, court saint, not thou. You keep some friend of a new fashion. There's no harm in your devil, he's a suckling, but he will breed teeth shortly, will he not?
Take heed you play not then too long with him.
Yes, and the great monk too. I shall find time to play a hot religious bout with some of you, and perhaps drive you and your course of sins to their eternal kennels. I speak softly now. 'Tis manners in a noble woman's lodgings, and I well knew all my degrees of duty. But come I to your everlasting parting once, thunder shall seem soft music to that tempest.
'Twas said last week there would be a change of weather when the moon hung so, and belike you heard it?
Why, here's sin made and ne'er conscience put to it, a monster with all forehead and no eyes. Why do I talk to thee of sense or virtue that art as dark as death, and as much madness to set light before thee as to lead blind folks to see the monuments, which they may smell as soon as they behold? Marry, oft times their heads, for want of light, may feel the hardness of them. So shall they, thy blind pride, my revenge and anger, that canst not see it now. And it may fall at such an hour, when thou least seest of all. So, to an ignorance darker than thy womb, I leave thy perjured soul. A plague will come.
Exit Leantio.
Get you gone first, and then I fear no greater, nor thee will I fear long. I'll have this sauciness soon banished from these lodgings, and the rooms perfumed well after the corrupt air it leaves. His breath has made me almost sick, in troth. A poor base start-up. Life, because has got fair clothes by foul means, comes to rail and show 'em.
Before we continue the scene with the entrance of the Duke, I think we should take stock of some of the stuff that's going on here, or just to tune us into the room. What a fascinating scene. I mean, this is the scene from Brancha that I really wanted earlier in Act 3, when I was sort of going, what's going on with her? And now it's like, no, now the play's delivering us some sense of what's actually going on there. We were discussing in the chat about, do you need that opening moment? I really quite like the bits with the two ladies. This whole thing about what is true and what is not, and that then leads into this soliloquy, and then this back and forth between the two of them that is just so destructive, and it's like they're talking in very very. They're keeping it very, very coded until Leantio just goes just breaks and just says what he's thinking and loses any level of moral high ground. But they are both in the same position, and yet he's throwing that in her face in a way that she isn't able to necessarily throw back in his in the same way. Thoughts on this? What a fascinating exchange. You see this drama. Sarah.
I mean, I don't know if this is right, because Middleton's punctuation is always a slightly slippery thing. And I just tend to do whatever comes to mind. I don't tend to pay attention to the punctuation marks. But that soliloquy, I found that really interesting, because I'm just looking for it now. Yeah, there's a line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down. She says, "My friends or kindred." And to be honest, because I was cold reading, I wasn't entirely sure whether that was like to do with the previous thought.
I think it comes from the previous sentence. Yeah.
Right. Because the way I read it, I kind of read it as at the start of a new sentence. I read, "My friends or kindred, 'tis not good in sadness to keep a maid so strict in her young days." And it's probably not how it's supposed to be read. But what occurred to me is that's really interesting. If it is meant to be read that way, because how often do you see female characters, even in soliloquy, break the fourth wall and actually talk directly to the audience? I can't. I mean, I'm sure there are some, but especially like a noble or a tragic woman. You sometimes get it with comedy characters, but like, I just thought that was really interesting.
Other thoughts, Lois?
Well, she could still be talking to the audience. I don't think she's talking specifically to her friends and kindred. I think that does go with the previous bit. But I mean, who else would she be talking to? She is, in a sense, telling the audience, don't bring girls up too strictly, because look what it will do.
It's the fact that she kind of, by friends and kindred, I kind of got the impression she was addressing them as her friends and kindred, like addressing them directly as people who were her allies and people that she cared about. And I'm sure you're right. I mean, I don't know this play very well at all, but it just struck me that it could be a really interesting interpretation that kind of brings the audience into the play a bit as well, in a way that might make them quite uncomfortable later on.
Other thoughts on? I say it's one of these narrowed in scenes. We've talked about the sort of the big scenes where everything, and then this is claustrophobic and close. Rachel, then Lois.
Do Leantio and Brancha recognize each other immediately? Is there some delay in them recognizing each other?
I didn't get the impression that there was any doubt.
No, he's come specifically to see her. That's what I interpret that his first line.
And she just turns around and goes, "What the hell are you wearing?" Well, this is an interesting turn for the books, isn't it? Lois.
Yeah. No, I think she may even pretend not to recognize him at first, and then, it's he, but or she may not. I mean, but clothes do make such a difference in these plays, and he must look completely different from the very plainly dressed guy that he was in the first part. No, I just think it's a marvelous scene. It's part of the whole incredible materialism of the play. The relationship between Leantio and Livia ends with her saying, love enough, I'll give enough, and he says, I'll love enough and take enough. I mean, and that's exactly what it shows here. And then the two of them just sizing up how much they've got out of it, and that we both thrive best asunder. We've done really well out of this, haven't we? Yeah, we should stay separated. Yeah.
Yes, it's deeply cynical in so many ways. Okay, let's continue the scene, because I paused mid-scene. Brancha left alone on stage. Enter the Duke.
Who's that?
Cry you mercy, sir.
Prithee, who's that?
The former thing, my lord, to whom you gave the captainship. He eats his meat with grudging still.
Still?
He comes vaunting here of his new love and the new clothes she gave him. Lady Livia. Who but she now, his mistress?
Lady Livia? Be sure of what you say.
He showed me her name, sir, with perfumed paper, her vows, her letter, with an intent to spite me. So his heart said, and his threats made it good. They were as spiteful as ever malice uttered, and as dangerous, should his hand follow the copy.
But that must not. Do not you vex your mind. Prithee, to bed, go. All shall be well and quiet.
I love peace, sir.
Exit Brancha.
And so do all that love. Take you no care for it. It shall be still provided to your hand. Who's near us there?
Enter a messenger.
My lord?
Seek out Hippolito, brother to Lady Livia, with all speed.
Oh, he was the last man I saw, my lord.
Exit messenger.
Make haste. He is a blood soon stirred, and as he's quick to apprehend a wrong, he's bold and sudden in bringing forth a ruin. I know likewise the reputation of his sister's honour is dear to him as lifeblood to his heart. And besides, I'll flatter him with a goodness to her which I now thought on, but never meant to practice, because I know her base, and that wind drives him. The ulcerous reputation feels the poise of lightest wrongs, as sores are vexed with flies. He comes. Hippolito, welcome.
My loved lord.
How does that lusty widow, thy kind sister? Is she not sped yet of a second husband? A bedfellow she has, I ask not that. I know she's sped of him.
My lord?
Yes, of a bedfellow. Is the news so strange to you?
I hope 'tis so to all.
I wish it were, sir. But 'tis confessed too fast. Her ignorant pleasures, only by lust instructed, have received into their services an impudent boaster, one that does raise his glory from her shame and tells the midday sun what's done in darkness. Yet, blinded with her appetite, wastes her wealth, buys her disgraces at a dearer rate than bounteous housekeepers purchase their honours. Nothing sads me so much as that in love to thee and to thy blood, I had picked out a worthy match for her, the great Vincentio, high in our favour, and in all men's thoughts.
Oh, thou destruction of all happy fortunes, unsated blood. Know you the name, my lord, of her abuser?
One Leantio.
He's a factor.
He never made so brave a voyage by his own talk.
Poor old widow's son. I humbly take my leave.
I see 'tis done. Give her good counsel, make her see her error. I know she'll hearken to you.
Yes, my lord. I make no doubt as I shall take the course which she shall never know till it be acted. And when she wakes to honour, then she'll thank me for it. I'll imitate the pities of old surgeons to this lost limb, who ere they show their art, cast one asleep, then cut the diseased part. So, out of love to her, I pity most. She shall not feel him going till he's lost. Then she'll commend the cure.
Exit Hippolito.
The great cure's past. I count this done already. His wrath's sure and speaks an injury deep. Farewell, Leantio. This place will never hear thee murmur more. Oh, our noble brother, welcome.
Yes, enter Lord Cardinal attended.
Set those lights down. Depart till you be called.
Exit attendants.
There's serious business fixed in his look. Nay, it inclines a little to the dark color of a discontentment. Brother, what is't commands your eye so powerfully? Speak, you seem lost.
The thing I look on seems so to my eyes lost forever.
You look on me.
What a grief 'tis to a religious feeling to think a man should have a friend so goodly, so wise, so noble, nay, a duke, a brother, and all this certainly damned.
How?
'Tis no wonder if your great sin can do it. Dare you look up for thinking of vengeance? Dare you sleep for fear of never waking but death, and dedicate unto his strumpet's love the strength of your affections, zeal, and health? Here you stand now. Can you assure your pleasures? You shall once more enjoy her, but once more? Alas, you cannot. What a misery 'tis then to be more certain of eternal death than of a next embrace. Nay, I shall show you. Nay, shall I show you how more unfortunate you stand in sin than the love private man? All his offences, like enclosed grounds, keep but about himself, and seldom stretch beyond his own soul's bounds. And when a man grows miserable, 'tis some comfort when he's no further charged than with himself. It is a sweet ease to wretchedness. But, great man, every sin thou commits shows like a flame upon a mountain. 'Tis seen far about, and with a big wind made of popular breath, the sparkles fly through cities. Here one takes, another catches there, and in short time waste all to cinders. But remember still what burnt the valleys first came from the hill. Every offense draws his particular pain, but 'tis example proves the great man's bane. The sins of mean men lie like scattered parcels of an unperfect bill. But when such fall, then comes example, and that sums up all. And this your reason grants, if men of good lives, who by their virtuous actions stir up others to noble and religious imitation, receive the greater glory after death, as sin must needs confess, what may they feel in height of torments and in weight of vengeance, not only they themselves not doing well, but sets a light up even to hell.
If you have done, I have. No more, sweet brother.
I know time spent in goodness is too tedious. This had not been a moment's space in lust now. That cannot bear a moment's How dare you venture on eternal pain that cannot bear a minute's reprehension? Methinks you should endure to hear that talked of which you so strive to suffer. Oh, my brother, what were you if you were taken now? My heart weeps blood to think on it. 'Tis a work of infinite mercy. You can never merit that you are not death-struck. No, not yet. I dare not stay you long, for fear you should not have enough time allowed to repent in. There's but this wall betwixt you and destruction. When you are at strongest, and but poor thin clay, think upon it, brother. Can you come so near it, for fair strumpet's love, and fall into a torment that knows neither end nor bottom for beauty, but the deepness of the skin, and that not of their own neither? Is she a thing whom sickness dare not visit? Does or age look on, or death resist? Does the worm shun her grave? If not, as your soul knows it, why should lust bring man to lasting pain for rotten dust?
Brother of spotless honor, let me weep the first of my repentance in thy bosom, and show the blessed fruit of a thankful spirit. And if I e'er keep woman more unlawfully, May I want penitence at my greatest need. And wise men know there is no barren place threatens more famine than a dearth in grace.
Why, here's a conversion. Is at this time, brother, sung for a hymn in heaven, and at this instant the powers of darkness groan, makes all hell sorry. First I praise heaven, then in my work I glory. Who's there? Attends without.
Enter some servants.
My lord?
Pick up those lights. There was a thicker darkness when they came first. The peace of a fair soul keep with my noble brother.
Exit Cardinal and attendants.
Joys be with you, sir. She lies alone tonight for it, and must still, though it be hard to conquer. But I have vowed never to know her as a strumpet more, and I must save my oath. If fury fail not, her husband dies tonight, or at the most lives not to see the morning spent tomorrow. Then will I make her lawfully mine own, without this sin and horror. Now I'm chidden for what I shall enjoy then unforbidden, and I'll not freeze in stoves. 'Tis but a while. Live like a hopeful bridegroom, chaste from flesh, and pleasure then will seem new, fair, and fresh.
And exit Duke. Yes, there's nothing like a clergyman telling you you're doing wrong for you to decide the best way to please the church is to commit a murder. It's a great bit of logic from the Duke there, just continuing to show what a stand-up citizen he is. Lynn.
Right. Like this moment reminds me of the moment in the earlier in the play where Livia tells Isabella, "Oh, you don't have to obey him because he's not really your father. So you can do what you want. You don't have any obligation to him because he's not your natural father." Like, and then Isabella reasons, okay, not only that, but Hippolito's not my blood relation uncle, so I can have an affair with him and it won't be as bad. I mean, like, the logic is not logical and so self-serving. And it's just, and this is the same sort of thing. It's just like, oh, well, I don't want to be having an illicit sexual affair, so I'll have my mistress's husband killed. That'll be better. Wait, what? Oh, it's so weird. It's like they don't get it. They don't get it. They kind of know the forms of proper behavior, but they don't really know the substance. They don't really understand the principle behind.
I think it's not even that he doesn't understand. He just doesn't care. I mean, it's just like he still wants what he wants. We were talking about appetites before, and just people just constantly just going, I want this thing, therefore I will do the thing that gets me the thing, rather than thinking, maybe don't have the thing, maybe don't do the incest, etc. So yeah, it's doing all those things. I mean, I was joking in the chat, the Cardinal doesn't half go on, but I think the Cardinal also needs to come on like a steam train. I mean, it's like that stuff is just going, because the Cardinal is probably the only person who can tell the Duke that he's really got to stop what he's doing, and he's got to be really all in. So yeah, you could probably trim that back a bit, but actually, to a degree, the mass of it is quite important for the scene to function. But it is a matter that the Cardinal cannot be delivered slowly, because then we will lose the will to live in a performance, because that you can give it some welly, and I think that especially as he's a character we've not met before, he's there to deliver a plot function. We need to send all of these trains off their rails, because we've got Act 5 and we've got to kill a lot of people. So he's sort of there to do that job plot wise. Other thoughts before we move into the next scene? Lois.
Well, I just think the Cardinal's speech is actually quite impressive. I mean, it should be cut, obviously, but it's a bit repetitious. But he makes a lot of really powerful points. I mean, it is a really strong sermon against lust, and just reminding him of how short life is compared to eternity, and so on. And And I think, I don't know, the first time I saw it, which was a very long time ago, I think it was the first revival for centuries. And I think it might have been 1962, before your grandparents were born, probably. But, I mean, the speech was really quite chilling, and the Duke did seem to be pulverized by it. And then just watching him work his way through that final speech into the feeling, oh, well, yeah, actually, once her husband's dead and I marry her, it'll be even more fun having sex with her. I mean, it was just that was when I decided Middleton was a genius, really.
Okay, let's go into Act 4, Scene 2 then. Let's see how this all goes down. Act 4, Scene 2, enter Hippolito.
The morning so far wasted, yet his baseness so impudent. Seeth the very sun do not blush at him. Dare he do this much and know me alive? Case one must be vicious, as I know myself, monstrously guilty, as a blind time made for it. He might use only that, were conscionable. Art, silence, closeness, subtlety, and darkness are fit for such a business, but there's no pity to be bestowed on an apparent sinner. An impudent daylight lecher, the great zeal I bear to her advancement in this match with Lord Leantio, as the Duke athwart it, to the perpetual honour of our house, puts fire into my blood, to purge the air of this corruption, fear it spread too far, and poison the whole hopes of this fair fortune. I love her good so dearly, that no brother shall venture farther for a sister's glory than I for her preferment.
Enter Leantio and a page.
Once again I'll see that glistering whore. Shines like a serpent now the court sun's upon her. Page.
And on, sir.
Yes,
I'll go in state too. See the coach be ready.
I'll hurry away presently.
Yes, you shall hurry. The devil after you. Take that at sending forth.
And Hippolito strikes Leantio.
Now and your draw, we're on equal terms, sir. Thou took'st advantage of my name in honour upon my sister. I ne'er saw the stroke come, till I found my reputation bleeding, and therefore I count it no sin to valour to serve thy lust so. Now we're of even hand. Take your best course against me. You must die.
How close sticks envy to man's happiness. When I was poor and little cared for life, had no such means offered me to die. No man's wrath minded me. Slave, I turn this to thee, to call thee to account for a wound lately of a base stamp upon me.
'Twas most fit for a base metal. Come and fetch me now, more noble then, for I will use thee fairer than thou hast done thy soul, or our honour.
And they fight.
And there I think 'tis for thee.
Help, help, oh, pardon.
And Leantio falls.
False wife, I feel now thou hast prayed heartily for me. Rise, strumpet, by my fall, thy lust may reign now. My heartstring and the marriage knot that tied thee break both together.
And Leantio dies. Death number 1, please.
There, I heard the sound on it, and never liked string better.
Enter Guardiano, Livia, Isabella, Ward, and Sordido.
Oh, 'tis my brother. Are you hurt, sir?
Not anything.
Oh, blessed fortune. Shift for thyself. What is he that thou hast killed?
Our honour's enemy.
Know you this man, lady?
Leantio, my love's joy. Oh, sick upon thee, as deadly as thy sins. Art thou not hurt? Oh, the devil take that fortune, and he drop plagues into the bowels without voice. Secret and fearful. Run for the officers. Let him be apprehended with all speed. For fear he escapes me, lay hands on him. Cannot be too sure 'tis wilful murder.
And they seize upon Hippolito.
You do heaven's vengeance, and the Lord doth saw. You know him not as I do. He is a villain, a monstrous as a prodigy, and as dreadful.
Will you but entertain a noble patience till you but hear the reason, worthy sister?
The reason? That's a just hell for the laughing at. Is there a reason found for the destruction of more lawful loves? And what was there none to kill but the black lust twixt thy niece and thee, that is kept so long?
How is that, good madam?
Too true, sir. There she stands, let her deny it. The deed cries shortly in the midwife's arms, unless the parent's sins strike it stillborn. And if you not be deaf and ignorant, you hear strange notes ere long. Look upon me, wench. 'Twas I betrayed thy honour, subtly to him, under a false tale. It lights upon me now, his arm has paid me home upon thy breast, my sweet beloved. Sorry, the name?
Leantio.
Leantio.
Is my judgment and care and choice so devilishly abused, so beyond shamefully? All the world will grin at me.
Oh, Sordido, Sordido, I'm damned. I'm damned.
Damned? Why, sir?
One of the wicked. Does not see it? A cuckold, a plain reprobate cuckold.
Nay, and you be damned for that. Be of good cheer, sir. You have gallant company of all professions. I'll have a wife next Sunday too, because I'm along with you myself.
That will be some comfort yet.
You, sir, that bear your load of injuries, as I of sorrows, lend me your grieved strength to this sad burthen, who in life wore actions, flames were not nimbler. We will talk of things, may have luck to break our hearts together.
I'll list to nothing but revenge and anger, whose counsels I will follow.
Exeunt Livia and Guardiano.
A wife, quotha. Here's a sweet plum tree of your gardener's grafting.
Nay, there's a worse name belongs to this fruit yet. And you could hit on it. A more open one. For he that marries a whore looks like a fellow bound all his life time to a medlar tree. That's good stuff. 'Tis no sooner ripe, but looks rotten. And so do some queens at 19. A pox on it. I thought there was some knavery abroach. Something stirred in her belly the first night I lay with her.
What? What, sir?
This is she brought up so courtly, can sing and dance and tumble too, methinks. I'll never marry wife again that has so many qualities.
Indeed, they are seldom, good master, for likely when they are taught so many, they will have one trick more of their own finding out. Give me a wench, but with one goodly quality, to lie with none but her husband, and that's bringing up enough for any woman breathing.
This was the fault, when she was tender to me. You never looked to this.
Alas, how would you have me see through a great farthingale, sir? I cannot peep through a millstone, or in the going to see what's done in the bottom.
Her father praised her breast. She'd the voice, forsooth. I marveled she sung so small indeed, being no maid. Now I perceive there's a young chorister in her belly. This breeds a singing in my head, I'm sure.
'Tis but the tune of your wives' cinquepence, danced in a feather bed. Faith, go lie down, master. But take heed your horns do not make holes in the pillar bears. I would not banter bros with him for a hogshead of angels. He would pick my skulls full of holes as a scrivener's sandbox.
And exit Warden Sordido.
Was ever maid so cruelly beguiled to the confusion of life, soul, and honor, all of one woman's murdering? I'd fain bring her name no nearer to my blood than woman, and 'tis too much of that. Oh, shame and horror! In that small distance from yon man to me lies sin enough to make a whole world perish. 'Tis time we parted, sir, and left the sight of one another. Nothing can be worse to hurt repentance, for our very eyes are far more poisonous to religion than basilisks to them. If any goodness rest in you, hope of comforts, fear of judgments, my request is I never may see you more, and so I turn me from you everlastingly. So is my hope to miss you. But for her that durst so dally with a sin so dangerous, and lay a snare so spitefully for my youth, if the least means but further my revenge, that I may practice the like cruel cunning upon her life as she has on mine honor, I'll act it without pity.
There's a care of reputation, and a sister's fortune sweetly regarded by her. But a silence as great as that which keeps among the graves, and everlastingly chained up her tongue, and after her has made mine miserable.
And enter Guardiano and Livia.
If you can but dissemble your heart's griefs now, be but a woman so far.
Peace! I'll strive, sir.
As I can wear my injuries in a smile, here's an occasion offered that gives anger both liberty and safety to perform things worth the fire it holds, without the fear of danger or of law, for mischiefs acted under the privilege of a marriage triumph at the Duke's hasty nuptials will be thought things merely accidental, all's by chance, not got of their own natures.
I conceive you, sir, even to a longing for the performance on't, and here behold some fruits.
And she kneels to Hippolito and Isabella.
Forgive me both. What I am now returned to sense and judgment, it is not the same rage and distraction presented lately to you. That rude form is gone forever. I am now myself, that speaks all peace and friendship. These tears are all for true springs of heartily penitent sorrow, for those foul wrongs which my forgetful fury slandered your virtues with. This gentleman is well resolved now.
I was never otherways. I knew, alas, 'twas but your anger spake it, and I never thought on more.
Rise, good sister.
Here's even as sweet amends made for a wrong now as one that gives a wound and pays the surgeon. All the smarts, nothing, the great loss of blood or time of hindrance. Well, I had a mother, I can dissemble too. What wrongs have slipped through anger's ignorance, aunt? My heart forgives.
Why, thus tuneful now.
And what I did, sister, was all for honour's cause, which time to come will approve to you.
Being awaked to goodness, I understand so much, sir, and praise now the fortune of your arm and of your safety. For by this death ye have rid me of a sin, as costly as e'er woman doted on, that hath pleased the Duke so well to, that, behold, sir, has sent you here to pardon, which I kissed with the most affectionate comfort. When 'twas brought, then was my fit just to pass. It came so well that methought to glad my heart.
I see his grace thinks on me.
There's no talk now but of the preparation for the great marriage.
Does he marry her then?
With all speed, suddenly, as fast as cost can be laid out with as many thousand hands. This gentleman and I had once a purpose to have honoured the first marriage of the Duke with an invention of his own. 'Twas ready the pains well past, most of the charge bestowed on't. Then came the death of your good mother, niece, and turned the glory of all to black. 'Tis a device that would fit these times so well. Art's treasury not better. If you'll join it, it shall be done. The cost shall all be mine.
You have my voice first. will well approve my thankfulness for the Duke's love and favour.
What say you, niece?
I'm content to make one.
The plot's full then. Your pages, madam, will make shift for Cupids.
That they will, sir.
You'll play your old part still.
What is good? Troy the I've even forgot it.
Why, Juno Pronuba, the marriage goddess.
Ah, 'tis right indeed.
And you shall play the nymph that offers sacrifice to appease her wrath.
Sacrifice, good sir.
Must I be appeased then?
That's as you list yourself, as you see cause.
Methinks 'twould show the more state in her deity to be incensed.
'Twould. But my sacrifice shall take a course to appease you, or I'll fail in it and teach a sinful bawd to play a goddess.
And exit Isabella.
Oh, for our parts, we'll not be ambitious, sir. Please you walk in and see the project drawn, then take your choice.
I weigh not, so I have one.
How much ado have I to restrain fury from breaking into curses? Oh, how painful 'tis to keep a great sorrow smothered. Surely thinks it is harder to dissemble grief than love. Leantio, hear the weight of thy lost lies, which nothing but destruction can suffice.
And exit Livia. And we'll pause there before we get some oboe action. Okay, so this is a scene that starts well, and then you can feel the plot devices creaking a bit as they're turning the vessel. It's the first scene where I've gone, oh, this is a stretch. There's a lot of stuff happening off stage to make this happen as well. And I mean, I think when staged, part of the problem with this is some confused stage directions that need to be played with, but also the physicality of who's there and not speaking for quite a long time and stuff going on. But of course, what's happened is they've gone off to the Duke and said, can I have a pardon, this guy be pardoned for murdering this guy? And the Duke said, yeah, sure, because I'm going to marry somebody else anyway, so it's all cool. And that all happens off stage. I mean, it's been prefaced earlier, but it's and the sort of the sense of the plotting that's going on here is a little confused. I mean, we all know where it's going, I think. There's going to be a celebration with a wedding celebration with a performance. They never go badly in tragedies ever. So yeah, there's an awful lot going on there. Sarah, then Lynn.
I disagree. I did not find this clunky at all. I found this absolutely bloody brilliant. The amount of conniving and finagling that is going on, even by revenge tragedy standards, is just so brilliant. The amount of feigning and talking at cross purposes. I mean, that was just a joy, I thought. Looking at it from an actor's perspective, just the sheer mendacity of all these people and the layers of it, the way they're attempting to pull the wool over the eyes of different sets of people in different ways. I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed that. And the thing that occurred to me about it as well, and I don't know if this has been done already, and Lois, you I'm guessing you might know, if anyone knows. Has this ever been staged like... Because I'm not in general a fan of modern stagings, but it just occurred to me in the middle of that scene because everyone was just being so fake within this kind of very closed, allegedly moral society. Has this ever been staged like a modern staging, like in like a sort of an American cultish megachurch type environment? Because I can really see it working. It just would really lend itself.
I am not aware of an American megacult situation, but I wouldn't be surprised. Lynn.
Hypocrisy. Yeah. I was gonna say I'm not so fussed about the part because the Duke had this all plotted anyway. It's like he sends Hippolito off to kill his girlfriend's husband. And he like writes the pardon. He like sits down and writes the pardon. It's like, it's just, oh, I have that pardon for you. Here you go. You know, so the fact that the pardon shows up so quickly, that makes sense to me. I kind of agree that it like the transparency of the plot function is a little awkward. I think it's kind of the clunkiest bit in is a place where the seams show, or where the gears show. But Sarah has a point too, like everyone being so fake and so hypocritical. That Isabella and Hippolito are furious at Livia for exposing them in her fit of pique. But it's like, dudes, God, you okay. Isabella didn't think she was having an affair with her actual uncle. But she knew she was sleeping with a man who wasn't her husband. I mean, she knew she was committing adultery. She walked into that sin with her eyes wide open. She made that choice. And Hippolito didn't know how she got tricked into consenting to sleep with him, but he knew exactly what he was doing. Oh, but it's all Livia's fault for exposing them.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the duplicity of the scene. The scene's driver is actually a moment of honesty, where it's like, this and this and this and this, and everybody's going, okay, that's not very helpful. The warden Sordido and
well, they're sleeping together.
Yeah. You did just kill this guy. Why did you do that?
What's your moral high ground is like, where's that hill that you're what? Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's the first scene in the play where there have been some complicated scenes to stage, like the sort of dancing and the banquet earlier. This is the first one where the complexity is making sure that it feels smooth and it feels that all the wheels are turning, and because there's questions about where people are and what they are doing, of which in a party scene it kind of doesn't matter. They can be standing, watching, doing things. What's Hippolito doing for quite a long time in this scene? We had an inferred stage direction that I read saying that it was seized, but that actually is entirely inferred and comes from nowhere. There's no reason for him to have been seized at all. I can imagine why someone puts it in, because someone's trying to solve the problem. What the hell is Hippolito doing? And actually that's a perfectly good staging solution to that question. So there are lots of little questions that the text isn't quite giving us because it's not quite fulsome enough in what's going on and when. And I say there's additional aside work to be done of going who's talking to who when and why, which is going to take quite a long rehearsal to really finesse and get to work right in a different way as, say, to the job of work and sorting out that earlier sort of banquet scene. Lois.
Yeah, I think Hippolito's situation is particularly interesting, and there are a lot of puzzles there. I mean, as far as I can make out, he only strikes Leantio at the beginning just to provoke him to a duel, but I have seen one production where he actually wounds him to the point where he'd be practically incapable of fighting anyway, which seems to me completely wrong, but the sort of wound talk is metaphorical, I think. I mean, Hippolito was saying, you injured my honor, and therefore, I'm slapping your face, and now we're on equal terms. But also, I think Hippolito may realize at that point, when he gets the pardon so quickly, especially when he hears that the Duke is marrying Bianca, that he's been used. I mean, that could come in. Then there's the fact that not only does Livia rush over to make sure Hippolito's not hurt before she discovers who he's killed, but Isabella must also, in fact, be terribly worried about him. So she's probably standing next to him at the point when Livia spills all the beans. And then there's the fact of Guardiano, who, suddenly becomes really horrified at what's happened. Mainly, it looks mainly as if he can't stand someone making a fool of him, but it could be also because his situation with the ward is really, he stands to gain, for instance, if the ward has no heirs, and it's possible that he knows that the ward is impotent. There are some funny jokes about him earlier from Sordido, and he may be deliberately, marrying him off. And now he discovers that Isabella may be pregnant, in which case that completely wrecks his plans. I mean, it's a possible reading of this anyway. This is what I like about those. There are so many motivations to play with. It's not like this is all surface and things. There are so many things at play, and that gives us room to
bustle and gives actors reasons to not get bored in a long run, which is not an unimportant thing. Okay, Act 4, Scene 3, not the longest. Have some oboes. Enter, in a great state, the Duke and Brancha, richly attired, with lords, cardinals, ladies, and other attendants. They pass solemnly over. Enter Lord Cardinal in a rage, seeming to break off the ceremony.
Cease, cease. Religious honours done to sin disparage virtue's reverence, and will pull heaven's thunder upon Florence. Holy ceremonies were made for sacred uses, not for sinful. Are these the fruits of your repentance, brother? Better it had been you had never sorrowed than to abuse the benefit and return to the worse than when sin left you. Vowed you then never to keep strumpet more, and are you now so swift in your desires to knit your honours and your life fast to her? Is not sin sure enough to wretched man, but he must bind himself in chains to it? Worse, must marriage, that immaculate robe of honour, that renders virtue glorious, fair, and fruitful to her great master, be now made the garment of her leprosy and foulness? Is this penitence to sanctify hot lust? What is it otherwise than worship done to devils? Is this the best amends that sin can make after her riots? As if a drunkard, to appease heaven's wrath, should offer up his surfeit for a sacrifice. On wedlock's, if that be comely, then lust's offerings are on wedlock's sacred altar.
Here you are bitter without cause, brother. What I vowed I keep, as safe as you your conscience, and this needs not. I taste more wrath in it than I do religion, and envy more than goodness. The path now I tread is honest, leads to lawful love, which virtue in her strictness would not check. I vowed no more to keep a sensual woman. 'Tis done. I mean to make a lawful wife of her.
He that taught you that craft, call him not master long, he will undo you. Grow not too cunning for your own soul's good, brother. For your soul, good brother. Is it enough to use adulterous thefts, then take sanctuary in marriage? I grant, so long as an offender keeps close in a privileged temple, his life's safe. But if he ever venture to come out, and so be taken, then he surely dies for it. So now you're safe. But when you leave this body, man's only privileged temple upon earth, in which the guilty soul takes sanctuary, then you'll perceive what wrongs chaste vows endure, when lust usurps the bed that should be pure.
Sir, I have read you over all this while in silence, and I find great knowledge in you, and severe learning. Yet amongst all your virtues I see not charity written, which some call the firstborn of religion, and I wonder I cannot see it in yours. Believe it, sir, there is no virtue can be sooner missed or later welcomed. It begins the rest, and sets them all in order. Heaven and angels take great delight in a converted sinner. Why should you, then, a servant and professor, differ so much from them? If every woman that commits evil should be therefore kept back in desires of goodness, how should virtue be known and honoured? From a man that's blind to take a burning taper, 'tis no wrong. He never misses it. But to take light from one that sees, that's injury and spite. Pray, whether is religion better served when lives that are licentious are made honest than when they still run through a sinful blood? 'Tis nothing virtue's temples to deface, but build the ruins? There's a work of grace.
I kiss thee for that spirit. Thou hast praised thy wit a modest way. On there.
And the oboes play.
Lust is bold, and we'll have vengeance speak ere it be controlled.
Excellent. If anyone has any objections why this they cannot be committed to matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. It's really interesting because Brancha kind of has a point. There's something deep. We have, how many plays have we encountered where someone who has assaulted a woman and the approved ending is that she marries him in the end, and this play it actually says, has a character come on and is saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. That you're just all terrible people. And her response is great. And it's really clear and it's really well put out there. All the cynicism of this play set aside, this is actually a really interesting little intellectual exercise being presented here of these two debate points being collided into each other and nicely expressed, and not ridiculously long in their expression as well. Once again, I think the Cardinal comes in with a steam train, and I just love it. Just can we have the music for the beginning of the ceremony again? Thank you. Back to track 1. Tar darlings. Yeah. Any additional thoughts from the room, Eric?
This is from the moment the Cardinal came in. I don't know if he was in yesterday's reading because it just went over my head yesterday. What this reminds me of is basically the Duchess of Malfi, where you've got two brothers. I don't know. It's like sort of not copy pasted, but like a sort of a parallel universe whereby the brothers don't agree. I don't know. This is kind of weird. It's because like in that one, the Cardinal, the brother who is the Cardinal, is the one who's sort of obsessed with lust, but actually committing lustful acts outside his office. I don't know. It's just interesting, sort of an interesting flip of the coin, kind of.
Yeah, it is unusual, I suppose, within a play like this to have a perfectly straight-laced Cardinal. I mean, and again, he's not very likable. I mean, this is the thing about this and many other characters, is in a sense he's got a point that this court is really full of excess and things, and people should clean up their act a bit. But he's also just do stop, please. If everyone just calmed down a bit, maybe this play wouldn't end as badly as it will for most people. That's not a spoiler. It's a tragedy. Any other thoughts before we go into the final act? Okay. Any final bets to who's going to survive? This is your last chance. Sarah.
I reckon Ward's gonna make it, because who would bother to run him through, basically? Yeah.
I'd say the Cardinal.
Oh, yeah, good. Maybe.
Did the Cardinal appear before?
Yeah,
in
this version, I'm betting on Ward and Sordido making it till the end.
Yeah.
Only in this version, though.
Only in this, yes, because you're familiar with the different versions. So yes, all bets are off for you. Eric.
But did the Cardinal appear before, or is he just like sort of a character that turns up to sort of ensure that we're not forgetting certain elements?
He was in Dumb Show earlier, but that's the first time he's spoken. Yeah.
You are our only Cardinal within this sphere. He's basically, in a sense, the play wouldn't end as badly as it does if he hadn't turned up, because odds on, actually everything would just keep ticking along, because he's the one who dobs in. I don't think all of the plot lines would end up this way.
No. I mean, the Duke had already arranged to kill Leantio before the.
That's true. Had he arranged to do that beforehand? Who told the Duke?
No, Bianca deliberately tells.
But maybe.
No, she really wants him killed. I think she says that he's a dangerous threat, and the Duke says, "Right, I'll take care of that." So he sets it all up with Hippolito before the scene with the Cardinal. That's why he knows. That's why he can say at the end that her husband dies tonight.
So more a force multiplier than necessarily. Okay. Act 5, Scene 1 then. Enter Guardiano and Ward.
Speak, hast thou any sense of thy abuse? Dost thou know what wrong's done thee?
I were an ass else. I cannot wash my face, but I am feeling on it.
Here, take this caltrop, then convey it secretly into the place I showed you. Look you, sir, this is the trapdoor to't.
I know of it, old uncle. Since the last triumph, here rose up the devil with one eye, I remember, with a company of fireworkers at its tail.
Prithee leave squabbling now, mark me, and fail not, but when thou hear'st me, give a step. Down with't, the villain's caught then.
If I miss you, hang me. I love to catch a villain, and your stamp shall go current, I warrant you. But how shall I rise up and let him down too, all at one hole? That will be a horrible puzzle. You know I have a part in it. I play slander.
True, but never make you ready for't.
No, my clothes are bought and all, and a foul fiend's head with a long contumelious tongue in the chaps of it. A very fit shape for slander in the out parishes.
It shall not come so far. Thou understandst it not.
Oh.
He shall lie deep enough ere that time, and stick first upon those.
Now I conceive you, Guardiano.
Away, list to the privy stamp, that's all thy part.
Stamp my horns in a mortar if I miss you, and give the powder and a white wine to sick cuckolds. A very present remedy for the headache.
And exit ward.
This should any way miscarry now, as if the fool be nimble enough, 'tis certain. The pages that present the swift-winged cupids are taught to hit him with their shafts of love, fitting his part which I have cunningly poisoned. He cannot escape my fury, and those ills will be laid all on fortune, not our wills. That's all the sport on't. For who will imagine that at the celebration of this night any mischance that haps can flow from spite?
And exit Guardiano, and there's a flourish as we go into what some people call another scene and some people don't. Just a continuation of the same scene, depending on your point of view. Just a pause here, however, this is a good pausey point for us. So what's the cunning plan that won't go wrong? There's a hole with a pole. Plus Cupid's got poison arrows. I mean, wow, they're not going into half measures here. Lois.
Yeah, you really have to bring this caltrop on, or nobody's going to know what it is. Something with points on it, I think, spikes that stick up.
Yeah. Something from your average torture horror scenario slash Scooby-Doo. I mean, it really depends on your point of view on that one. So yeah, and again, we really trust that Guardiano and Ward and these people are the people to arrange this kind of thing. It can't go horribly wrong at all. Sarah.
I spoke too soon about Ward. I am now thinking he's definitely gonna get stabbed with those Cupid arrows, isn't he? I mean, like he's gonna stab himself, or it's all gonna go like this. Yeah, he's definitely for it.
Well, yeah. And Ward presumably exits down below out for that exit as well. So he's gone down to set up the trap, as it were. Eric.
Well, I mean, it's very much that thing of trying to kill the sort of silliest person in the play, because you would undermine the tragedy, wouldn't you?
It's not a tragedy if he dies. I'm sorry, I'm not that fast. Hey. Okay, so we'll go on into what some call Act 5, Scene 2. Some just say it's a continuation of the same scene, which it arguably is. So, but for our purposes, it was useful. There is a bit of a flourish, as it were. Enter above Duke, Brancha, Lord Cardinal, Fabritio, and other cardinals, lords, and ladies in state. Basically, the rest of the ensemble come on if they haven't got an important part.
Now, our fair Duchess, your delight shall witness how you're beloved and honored. All the glories bestowed upon the gladness of this night are done for your bright sake.
I am the more in debt, my lord, to loves and courtesies that offer up themselves so bounteously to do me honoured grace without my merit.
A goodness set in greatness, how it sparkles afar off, like pure diamonds set in gold. How perfect my desires were, might I witness but a fair noble peace twixt your two spirits. The reconcilement would be more sweet to me than longer life to him that fears to die. Good sir,
I profess peace and am content.
I'll see the seal upon't, and then 'tis firm.
You shall have all you wish.
I have all indeed. Now,
But I have made surer work. This shall not blind me. He that begins so early to reprove, quickly rid him, or look for little love. Beware a brother's envy. He's next heir, too. Cardinal, you die this night. The plot's laid surely. In time of sports death may steal insecurely. Then 'tis least thought on. For he that's most religious, holy friend, does not at all hours think upon his end. He has his times of frailty and his thoughts, their transportations too, through flesh and blood, for all his zeal, his learning and his light, as well as we, poor soul, that sin by night.
what's this, Fabritio?
There is indeed a piece of paper being passed around.
Marry, my lord, the model of what's presented.
We thank their loves. Sweet Duchess, take your seat. List to the argument. There is a nymph that haunts the woods and springs, in love with two at once, and they with her. Equal it runs, but to decide these things, the cause to mighty Juno they refer, she being the marriage goddess. The two lovers they offer sighs, the nymph a sacrifice, all to please Juno, who by signs discovers how the event shall be. So that strife dies. Then springs a second, for the man refused grows discontent, and out of love abused he raises slander up, like a black fiend, to disgrace the other, which pays him in the end.
In troth, my lord, a pretty pleasing argument, and fits the occasion well. Envy and slander are things soon raised against two faithful lovers. But comfort is, they are not long unrewarded.
Music.
This music shows they're upon entrance now.
Then enter all my wishes.
Enter Hymen in yellow, Ganymede in a blue robe powdered with stars, and Hebe in a white robe with golden stars, with covered caps in their hands. They dance a short dance. Then, bowing to the Duke, etc., Hymen speaks.
To thee, fair bride, Hymen offers up of nuptial joys this the celestial cup. Taste it, and thou shalt ever find love in thy bed, peace in thy mind.
We'll taste you sure. 'Twere pity to disgrace so pretty a beginning.
'Twas spoke nobly.
2 cups of nectar have we begged from Jove. Hebe gives that to innocence, I this to love. Take heed of stumbling more, look to your way. Remember still the Via Lactea.
Well, Ganymede, you have more faults, though not so known. I spilled 1 cup, but you have filched many more.
No more, forbear for Hymen's sake. In love we met, so let us part.
And exit the maskers.
But soft. Here's no such persons in the argument as these 3. Hymen, Hebe, Ganymede. The actors that this model here discovers are only 4. Juno, a nymph, 2 lovers.
This is some anti-mask belike, my lord, to entertain time. Now my piece is perfect. Let sports come on apace. Now is their time, my lord. Hark you hear from 'em?
The nymph, indeed.
Enter 2 dressed like nymphs, bearing 2 tapers lighted. Then Isabella, dressed with flowers and garlands, bearing a censer with fire in it. They set the censer and tapers in Juno's altar with much reverence. This ditty being sung in parts, but Isabella can mark that however they wish.
Io Juno, nuptial goddess, thou that rulest o'er coupled bodies, tiest man to woman never to forsake her, thou only powerful marriage maker. Pity this amazed affection. I love both, and both love me, nor know I where to give rejection, my heart likes so equally. Till thou set'st right my peace of life, and with thy power conclude this strife. Now, with my thanks, depart you to the springs, I to these wells of love. Thou sacred goddess and queen of nuptials, daughter to great Saturn, sister and wife to Jove, imperial Juno, pity this passionate conflict in my breast, this tedious war twixt two affections. Crown me with victory, and my heart's at peace.
Enter Hippolito and Guardiano like shepherds.
Make me that happy man, thou mighty goddess.
But I live most in hope, if truest love merit the greatest comfort.
I love both with such an even and fair affection, I know not which to speak for, which to wish for, till thou, great arbitress, twixt lovers' hearts, by thy auspicious grace design the man. Which pity I implore.
We all implore
it.
And Livia descends like Juno.
And after sighs, contritions, truest odors, I offer to thy powerful deity this precious incense. May it ascend peacefully.
Scatters incense on the fire.
And if it keep true touch, my good Aunt Juno, 'twill try your immortality ere long. I fear you'll never get so nigh heaven again when you're once down.
Though you and your affections seem as dark as all of the illustrious brightness as night's inheritance hell, we pity you, and your requests are granted. You are signs, they shall be given to you. We will be gracious to you. He, of all those twain, which we determine for you, love's arrow shall wound twice, the later wound betokens love in age, so are all, whose love continuously firmly in all their lifetime, twice wounded in their marriage, else affection dies when youth ends. Disfavor overcomes me. Now, for a sign of wealth and golden days, bright-eyed prosperity, which all couples love, and makes love, take that. Our brother Jove never denies us of this burning treasure, express bounty.
And at that point, having tossed flaming gold into Isabella's lap, stage direction's a little absent here, Isabella sinks down and perishes.
She falls down upon it. What's the conceit of that?
As overjoyed, belike. Too much prosperity overjoys us all, and she has her lap full, it seems, my lord.
This swerves a little from the argument, though. Look you, my lords.
All's fast. Now comes my part to tell him hither. Then with a stamp given, he dispatched as cunningly.
Guardiano falls through a trapdoor.
Oh, dead! Oh, treachery! Cruelly made away! How's that?
Look, there's one of the lovers dropped away too.
Why, sure, this plot's drawn false. Here's no such thing.
Oh, I'm sick to death. Let me down quickly, or this fume is deadly. Oh, it has poisoned me. My subtle is speed, and art has quitted me. My ambition pulls me down to ruin.
Nay, then I kiss thy cold lips, and applaud this thy revenge in death.
Kisses the body of Isabella.
Look, Juno's down too.
Yes, there's cupids being shot at Hippolito. Some of these stage directions may be misplaced or slightly random, but we're working on it.
What makes she there? Her pride should keep aloft. She was wont to scorn the earth in other shows. Methinks her peacock's feathers are much pulled.
Oh, death runs through my blood, and a wild flame too. Plague of those cupids. Some lay hold on 'em. Let 'em not escape. They've spoiled me. The shaft is deadly.
I've lost myself in this quite.
My great lords, we're all confounded.
How?
Dead, and I worse.
Dead? My girl dead? I hope my sister Juno has not served me so.
Lust and forgetfulness has been among us, and we are brought to nothing. Some blessed charity lend me the speeding pity of his sword to quench this fire in blood. Leantio's death has brought all this upon us. Now I taste it, and made us slay pots to confound each other. The event so proves it, and man's understanding is riper at his fall than all his lifetime. She, in a madness for her lover's death, revealed a fearful lust in our near bloods, for which I'm punished dreadfully and unlooked for, proved her own ruin too. Vengeance met vengeance like a set match, as if the plague of sin had been agreed to meet here all together. How a fawning partner fell, reached not, unless caught by some spring of his own setting, for, on my pain, he never dreamed of dying. The plot was all his own, and he had cunning enough to save himself. 'Tis the property, guilty deeds, to draw your wise men downward. Therefore the wonder ceases. Oh, this torment!
Our guard, below there.
Enter a lord with a guard.
My lord.
Run and meet death then, and cut off time and pain.
And Hippolito throws himself onto whatever weapon the guard happens to be holding.
Behold, my lord has run his breast upon a weapon's point.
Upon the first night of our nuptial honors, destruction play her triumph, and great mischiefs mask in expected pleasures. 'Tis prodigious. There are things most fearfully ominous. I like 'em not. Remove these ruined bodies from our eyes.
Not yet, no change? When falls he to the earth?
Please but your excellence to pursue that paper, which is a brief confession from the heart of him that fell first, ere his soul departed. And there the darkness of these deeds speaks plainly. 'Tis the full scope, the manner and intent. His ward, that ignorantly let him down, fear put to present flight at the voices of him.
Nor yet?
Read, for I am lost in sight and strength.
And the
My
Duke
noble
falls.
brother. My noble brother.
Oh, the curse of wretchedness! My deadly hand is fallen upon my lord! Destruction, take me to thee. Give me way! The pains and plagues of a lost soul upon him that hinders me a moment.
My heart swells bigger yet. Help! Here, break it ope! My breast flies open next.
And the Duke dies.
Oh, with the poison that was prepared for thee! Thee, Cardinal! 'Twas meant for thee!
Poor prince.
Accursed error! Give me thy last breath, thou infected bosom, and wrap two spirits in one poisoned vapour. Thus reward thy murderer, and turn death into a parting kiss. My soul stands ready at my lips, even vexed to stay 1 minute after thee.
And kisses the corpse of the Duke.
The greatest sorrow and astonishment that ever struck the general peace of Florence dwells in this hour.
So, my desires are satisfied. I feel death's power within me. Thou hast prevailed in something, cursed poison, though my chief force was spent in my lord's bosom. But my deformity in spirit's more foul. A blemished face best fits a leprous soul. What make I here? These are all strangers to me, not known by their malice. Now thou'rt gone, nor do I seek their pities.
And Brancha, ignore the stage direction. She drinks from the poisoned cup at that point.
Oh, restrain her ignorant, wilful hand.
Now do. 'Tis done. Leantio, now I feel the breach of marriage at my heart breaking. Oh, the deadly snares that women set for women without pity either to soul or honour. Learn by me to know your foes. In this belief I die. Like our own sex, we have no enemy. No enemy.
See, my lord, what shift she have made to her own destruction.
Pride, greatness, honours, beauty, youth, ambition, you must all down together. There's no help for it. Yet this my gladness is, that I remove, tasting the same death in a cup of love.
And Brancha dies.
Sin, what thou art, these ruins show too piteously. 2 kings on 1 throne cannot sit together, but one must needs down, for his title's wrong. So where lust reigns, that prince cannot reign long.
And with that neat summing up from the Cardinal, the play ends. Yes, I was just glancing at the summary that Wiggins gives us in the drama catalogue, and it's just at the end of the play, and the Cardinal moralises. That's how the play
Martin
ends, and I think that's that covers quite a lot. Okay. There's a lot going on in there. A lot of it's confused. Some of it has to be inferred, and sometimes this version has inferred slightly wrong. Especially about the timing of Guardiano's trap and how that is sprung. Yeah. And
That did seem a little fast in the thing. Script where it's like, step, and then immediately falls in the trapdoor. It seemed a little fast.
Well, these things happen. But yeah, there's an awful lot of deaths. And they all come thick and fast, and they're quite complicated in how they're done. And yeah, Isabella's death is quite fiddly and complicated. Yeah, they're all quite complicated. You have to work on this one for a while, but at least pretty much everybody dies. Who called on the Cardinal surviving? Well done, yay, well done.
I forgot. Yeah,
I was like, somebody's got to moralize at the end.
Exactly. What's a play without a moral? Okay, Lynn, and then Rachel, and then lots of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's so many things. We've been wondering aloud this whole week about what is Bianca's deal? Or Brancha? How does she feel about any of this? And I'm not sure she knows. Because she speaks to Leantio as she's dying, the something about the nuptial breach, and but then she says that she tastes the same death in a cup of love, assume the same death as her new husband, one would assume, the Duke, and a cup of love. So she's saying that she loved him at the end. How does she feel about any this? It's but I think in a way that's kind of psychologically accurate. I think a woman who's been sexually assaulted and then becomes the concubine of her assailant and then the wife of her, how is she supposed to feel about that? Yeah. And I was just thinking about etymology, because that's me, I'm a nerd. And I've been told, Helen said in one of our previous sessions, the word rape actually originally meant theft. So you're stealing this woman from her family or from her whatever. Anyway, so and Leantio speaks repeatedly of his theft of Bianca. He stole her, so he's a thief, so he committed theft, and the Duke committed rape, and they're the same word. So are we really supposed to see a kind of equivalence between those two? That what Leantio did is only marginally less objectionable than what the Cardinal did. They both basically took a woman who they had no right to. It's more very complicated, isn't it?
Yes. I'll go to Rachel, then I'll go to Eric, then Sarah, then I think Alan was in there as well. I think everyone. We'll go around. Rachel.
This is a more detail-oriented kind of question. The ward is in the trap, and the guardian falls on him. Is it clear what's happened to the ward?
It is not particularly. Hang on.
This is something about he ran away and we're going to send somebody after him. Isn't that right?
I might have missed that.
Yeah. No, that's the bit about the paper that apparently Guardiano managed to write or dictate a confession just before dying, and then the ward apparently ran away when he realized what a mess he'd made of things.
Right. So he has survived
in there.
So who's one of the lovers who dropped away too? Who is that? Who also goes through the trapdoor?
That's Guardiano. He's playing one of the lovers.
Yeah. Oh, I see. That's him. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
really
and one inferred stage direction is that Hippolito realizes that the death's happened, and he activates the trapdoor by accident. It's inferred in one edition that he's going stark dead, oh treachery, cruelly made. How's that? Hits the floor, trapdoor goes, Guardiano goes flying. That's somebody's interpretation.
Yeah.
Again, this is sort of the problem. We know about the flaming gold on Isabella because there's a note in one of the versions. Someone's scribbled in the corner. That's what's going on there. But this whole sequence is very underdeveloped in terms of telling us what the hell is going on and where. And actually, it's again, this is the second scene in the play where you're sitting there going, third scene in the play where you need to spend quite a long time just figuring out the logistics of all the deaths, and deaths take a long time to organise. Speaking of someone, I've organised a lot of deaths on stage. I will just throw in there on stage deaths, and they are very enjoyable to organise, but they do take time. And this one gives us a lot. And I think one of the things is we need to make sure that the audience doesn't feel like the Duke, who I just love his running commentary. I've lost myself in this quite. I've no idea where I am now. Who's who?
He's Fabritio. He's like, what? My daughter's dead? And
Yeah.
my brother?
Yeah.
This is not as advertised.
Yeah.
This isn't in my program book.
No.
This isn't in the book.
Yeah, how could Juno do this to me? Anyway, I think Sarah was... Eric, then Sarah. Sorry, Eric was next.
I was just going to say that I think that the Cardinal at the end is probably not so much caring about the moralizing, but just like, oh shit, who's going to clean up now?
Well, I suppose he has the, he feels the, at least I was right.
Yeah, definitely.
Sarah.
Yes, I thought what Lynn said was really fascinating and helpful, actually, because that is such a big turnaround, and yes, women who are the victims of assault can be gaslit into loving their assaulters, but to the point where they would kill themselves because they've I guess she could be doing it because she's like, oh, if people realize that it's me, then they're going to execute me anyway. I don't know, that would be one way of getting around it. But otherwise, if you're just taking it as it is or as it appears, she's not going to do that unless she genuinely loves him, and that actually puts a whole other interpretation on this play. And like, I'm thinking about this from a directing point of view, you're gonna have to be very careful about how you direct every scene between Bianca and the Duke. But I thought what Lynn said about this equivalence between theft and rape was very interesting, because actually if Leantio, I was sort of taking it right at the beginning that oh, she's married beneath her station because she's fallen in love with this, hot but poor dude. That happens a lot in fiction. But actually, if she hasn't, if she's kind of been forced to marry him because he's raped her, and so she then has to marry him because that's the only way to kind of, save her honor. And she's in this marriage for not entirely good reasons, then actually the Duke, even though he is preying upon her, I mean, she becomes an even more tragic figure because she's trapped between these two men who are preying upon her. But actually, he might be seen as the lesser of the evils. And given the context of her situation, she might even see him as like her savior in some kind of warped way. So I think there's an awful lot to play with, but just to make that suicide really work from a psychological perspective.
It's not so much that I think we can find plenty of reasons why she would want to take her own life. It is this thing of, oh, hang on, it's the wrong person. And actually, she could be very reasonably destabilized. She doesn't want her lord dead per se necessarily, because of course that's the meal ticket and that's the way, they're planning to kill the cardinal, etc. It's just then it's the kissing of the corpse, and it's the everything that follows that point onwards. And you could edit and tweak a lot of that out and make it sort of fit.
But then why would you? Because
tidier.
you'd be making it tidier, but you'd be taking away a lot of the complexity and
Oh,
weirdness of it.
But
Yeah.
I mean, this is the question, because of course we, odds on you have to cut this play down, and the question of what the person who cuts the play effectively writes the play, and that's the question of what you want the play to say in the production. And that's not to say that there isn't plenty of conflicted stuff going on there, but actually do precisely how that final moment functions could go in all sorts of different ways. Brancha has some wonderful bits of going, is he dead yet? He looks awfully well. It's not yet. Some of those asides are killer, in more ways than one. And who was next? I think Alan was next, and then Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I think that final scene would need very good direction, because otherwise there won't be a dry seat in the house. The audience will be just peeing and sort of laughing at the absurdities. And I think you could also tidy up with an action for the cardinal at the end, where he's going, mine, all mine, because he's the next heir.
Well, yeah, we've got that in another play. I don't think we need to necessarily construct it in this one. But yeah, I mean, there is a good question actually about audience response. What is the audience response you're expecting here? I think there is room for some laughter. I don't think this is all because there's a lot of the ironic asides that are being thrown at the audience are inviting laughter. And of course, a lot of the people who die in a way that they're not supposed to. Nobody's supposed to notice that they're dead. Those initial deaths, they need to die, and they need to obviously die, but they also, everyone else has to go, oh, marvelous performance, oh, so good,
Right.
and that kind of thing, and then twig, and that's an interesting balancing act, and how to make that land. Lois.
Oh gosh, yeah, I've got quite a lot to say really, and I don't want to be boring. So, the first thing is just that there's no way that Bianca doesn't love Leantio at the beginning. I mean, they're mad about each other, but it's a big sexual thing. I mean, they just can't get enough of each other. They can't keep their hands off each other. And he knows he's just got to leave because otherwise he'll get her pregnant, and he's worried about, the expense of having a lot of children. But and there is certainly the fact that he has also stolen her, and his mother does make the point right early on that to steal somebody, take someone away from her own rank and the fortune that she could have had and everything is a sort of crime, and he sees it as something he's being punished for. Then when the Duke takes her from him, but what happens to Bianca then? What puzzles me, we didn't discuss what she says when she comes back on after having been raped, but I've always found those lines really odd. She says that she's seen something really fearful. The infectious mists hang at his eyes. The weather of a doomsday dwells upon him. And she's talking about the Duke. And I couldn't make out. I mean, I've never understood whether she means that he's in fact riddled with syphilis and is a really horrible sight, and that because she goes on to say, since my honor's leprous, why should I preserve that fair that caused the leprosy? Come poison all at once, and that almost suggests that. If she's going to get whatever he's got, then so much. I mean, it may just be completely figurative. She may just mean, that this is such a horrible sin that I feel as if I've just seen a demon covered with infectious mists and mildews and leprosy and everything. I don't know, but it's a really odd movement from that to the state she's in. I think she's in a way just sort of dazzled in that the beginning of Act 4, when she talks about how, her fortune found her so strangely. I mean, to be a duke's mistress, in Florence is to be absolutely at the peak of anything a woman could wish, I should think. And she must still just be in this kind of state. Wow, look at what's happened to me. I've got the Nobel Prize. I've got everything anybody could want. And I think that's kind of what she's sailing in. But the other point she keeps making is that she's a foreigner. I mean, she's from Venice and she's now in Florence, and she feels that they betrayed her. And she was a foreigner. And then at the very end, she's looking around. These are all strangers to me. Now that the Duke's dead, she's surrounded by nothing but hostile faces. So that could really be enough to just terrify her, I think, into killing herself. But then she does have those lines about tasting the death in a cup of love and so on. So, but she also does see herself as being punished for Leantio's death, in fact. And of course, Hippolito makes that point. I mean, the other thing I'd want to say, partly on the basis of seeing productions, is that, I mean, I think it's really important that it is funny a lot of the time. I think the best version I ever saw was one in which people really were laughing pretty well all the way through this masque. I mean, it was the classic, the play that goes wrong, the masque that goes really wrong. And you got, I think it was sort of up to when Hippolito says, dead, and Fabritio doesn't believe him and says, my daughter dead. I know my sister Juno would not serve me so. And then he just looks at Hippolito's face and he freezes and he realizes that this is true. And then Hippolito has what I think is a really great speech. Lust and forgetfulness have been among us and we are brought to nothing. And the whole thing, I mean, it's just straight moralizing. And I love straight moralizing. I mean, when it's really well done. And it just sort of changes things.
That's a brilliant read on Fabritio. Like, no, that's not really happening. Wait, what?
And then,
it's details of precisely what is going on with these cupids, because they're coming on and murdering a lot, stabby, poison darty. Who are they? Who's playing? And how are they? What do they look like? Are they? What happens if you have just little children coming and murdering everyone on stage? How do you do that? Because that could be really disturbing, actually.
With training a bunch of boy actors in archery.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the other thing I wondered about, I mean, the ward makes such a lot of the fact that he ought to be dressed like a black fiend as slander, and Guardiano says, no, don't bother getting into costume because we won't need you. But I think it would be quite effective to have him, in fact, a devil come on right at the end and kind of cackle over the whole series of events. I mean, given how horrible it's been.
Well, actually, I was thinking more that he just turns up and goes, sorry, I'm late. Ta-da! Oh. What? What?
That would be still in character for him, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cardinal just stabs him, just goes, sod it.
He didn't. I was so convinced he was going to be like with the Cupids, like one of them was going to hit him in the arse, or he was going to take an arrow and stab himself in the eye by accident or something. But, yeah.
I think we could put him in as one of, whatever the half reference to him can go, and just have him fall down the hole. It's fine. We've got plenty of ways to kill him. And it is a question. Livia, we've got potentially, we've got hoists potentially necessary here. We've got all sorts of stage mechanics going on with all of this. The incense, the poison. How do you direct that so it only kills one person? I mean, they're all clearly dying.
Maybe she's just allergic to whatever it is.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it's anaphylaxis.
Yeah. Sorry, Sarah, were you waving, or were you just making the point that they all should be dead?
Yeah, no, I was just about to say, but then I put my hand down because you said it. It's like, how on earth do you stage that whole I'm poisoning you with incense, I'm killing you with melted gold? Like, I mean, what was he thinking, Middleton? He made his life or his actors' lives so unnecessarily complicated with that, because it's such a difficult way. And yeah, how do you poison someone with incense without it just going everywhere and poisoning everyone? It's like, why did he... there's such particular ways of killing people. Like, I'm fascinated as to why he picked them. Was there some sort of historical basis that he was drawing from, or was he just like being mad?
Well, I mean, there's two things on that. Yeah, there are historical basis as well as just story basis for the plots. The A and the B plot do come from places. I don't think the actual mask at the end is particularly based on any of those things. I think that's just a bit convention by then. But we are into this sort of slightly weird phase of not only court mask, but court mask sort of making its way into public stages and being part of what they're doing in plays. So maybe the spectacle and the ridiculously complicatedness of this is the part of the point. Is you come away humming the murders in a way that people always have this idea that these plays are not visual and not it's all just the words. No, this is an unbelievably complicated show that requires an awful lot of rehearsal and stuff.
And so elaborate.
Some of which will be in stock, but logistics are important here. Music and dance, etc. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you do, it's complicated because you've really got to have some kind of upper level for Livia. I mean, she says, my own ambition pulls me down to ruin. And the fact that she is up there, she's playing a goddess, which is exactly what she's been doing in the play, maneuvering people into situations. I mean, the various things they're doing are symbolic, I think. And obviously that's part of what's going on in a mosque. I mean, in a mosque, generally, the idea is that since all the aristocrats are playing virtues, symbols of some sort of virtue, they're representing their true selves. Whereas here, they're sort of acting out what they've done in the play. And in many ways, I mean, to be poisoned by Cupid's arrows is exactly what's happened to Hippolito. Everyone. Yeah, and in fact, to everybody. They probably should all be killed that way. But I think you could probably do something with incense to make it look as if it's going straight up.
Because she could raise it above her head so that it looks like it's going up, and then as she raises it up, Livia's pouring, doing the boiling oil thing, but very directed onto.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a brilliant stage manager in order to be able to pull this off.
Oh, and it's also, I'm just thinking also about Livia's death, which we didn't actually mark with the stage direction. But she's sort of coughing. Oh, I've been poisoned. Oh, death.
Oh, she'd have to fall off the balcony.
Well, this is the thing: is if she's got some sort of hoist thing, I just love the idea that she just goes thunk.
Yeah.
And again, aiming for slightly that comic thing of she gets this speech. I've been poisoned. I've been.
Yeah.
I mean,
you have the line, the favor overcomes me. That should be really her saying, oh, this favor overcomes me. And then she's chucking out the rest of the speech.
The other thing you could do is, I mean, I don't know if you could do it on stage. You'd certainly do it on film, but like you could have her, choke on the incense, topple over the balcony that she's on and land on Isabella.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that that moment is like, oh, I've got to get on with killing Isabella because not feeling too bright at this moment,
Yeah.
And I love the way that it's Isabella, it's Livia, and it's Brancha who are there is another murder plot going on there, but actually that's the pointless comedy one that doesn't go anywhere. It's a red herring, the trapdoor with the spike in it.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, yeah, the women absolutely drive this play, don't they? It's fantastic
You
from
don't
that
get the feeling the
perspective.
Duke knows that Bianca has poisoned the wine. Like, she did that on her own. She's getting rid of her brother-in-law on her own initiative.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to go into the Duke's cupboards. I'm sure there's some terrifying things in there. Alan.
Yeah, one thing on a different area of this is the structure of this play in terms of where the act divisions are, which I assume are original. Because effectively we had the first third of the play, or a long third, which was acts 1 and 2. And then the last third, which is 4 and 5. And that inordinately lengthy act 3.
Well, this is the thing: is you've got to remember that Act 5's probably longer than it looks because there's a lot of act. There are songs, there are dances, there's stuff going on. So that's slightly illusory. It's also an unbelievably long play. Even before you start putting all the songs and the dances in, because there's more than one in the text. And it's a late printing. This is sort of the problem. It's so precisely what's going on with the text is slightly difficult to fully appreciate. But it does seem to be coming from a largely performance plays. But I wouldn't take that as being too authoritative in terms of. I don't think that means anything per se about the nature of its structure, because as I say, I think the acts are slightly different. And acts do vary in length; they're not always exactly equal. I would have thought this is designed for an indoor playhouse, just simply because that's increasingly the mode of the times, and it would be a lot harder to do this outdoors. But plays did shift in and outdoors depending on which company owned what venues and what they could do. So. I'm sure there's a miniature version of this. It's the deaths are a lot more straightforward. I'd love to see this on tour in a guild hall. Eric.
I was just going to ask the sort of, well, because obviously in the last scene, they come in and sit down to watch the mask, right? Basically, which is so. That would mean that you'd have to have the people who are dying near each other at least, so that at least so the Cardinal can make a swift people who survive. I don't know. It depends how you would. I'm trying to imagine how you would stage this, because obviously if you've got Cupids aiming arrows and stuff or whatever, and then maybe people leaping over the table. It depends how action oriented you want it, but I mean, I can imagine it would be chaos. So I don't know.
Yes, and we're not going to have time to do proper final thoughts and really talk about how to stage this, because it's a lot of it's very simple, apart from when it's unbelievably complicated. And we haven't even really touched on the acknowledgement that it's long and therefore needs trimming, but we haven't actually necessarily. It's going to have to be salami edits all the way through, isn't it? Rather than this big chunk has to go per se. There are a few chunky scenes that might need, but they're all good stuff to work in rehearsals. I mean, you're going to have to fight with your actors to get some of these cuts through, because they're going to want them in. Sarah.
Yeah, just picking up on what Eric said there. I think it should be chaos, that final scene. Loads of people, and this whole thing that I've been wittering on about through all 3 sessions of this play, about the zooming in and the zooming out of the small rooms, and then the big rooms, and then the small rooms and the big rooms, and the different effects that you create with, is this small room cozy, or is it safe, or is it actually a trap and a something nefarious, and is this big room like a public bright light space where you can actually go and be part of society and find connection, or is it actually a place where you're exposed to danger and there is nowhere to hide? I think that's absolutely something to be played with in terms of how you stage it. But this end scene, I feel, has to be the biggest of all of them. I mean, we've had the two stages before with the balcony above, the gallery above. We had that earlier on in the chess scene, but I think for this it has to be even larger, and that just have to be loads of bodies. Like, I mean, not just dead bodies, but like, just and all these cupids and all these maskers, because I mean, like, obviously I'm talking about a fantasy production here where money is no object, but like you'd want that sense of absolute, on the one hand, mayhem, but also just over the top elaborate gorgeousness to the point of like it making you feel a little bit queasy, because that's just this kind of weird world. It's like an Alice in Wonderland world that they all end up in at the end. They go from being in these very domestic situations to this larger than life kind of fantasy world where everybody ends up dead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the advantage for the original production would have been that they could have lots of extras, because actually the core cast is actually relatively small. It's 10 with a few some of the minor characters on top of that. So you've got lots of room for those bodies to be doing other things. And even I think with a modern production, you could probably stretch to enough supernumeraries to make that work. That ending work if you wanted to, because actually your core cast is relatively small, and you could work on that in a slightly different way. Any other final thoughts anyone wants to throw in? We don't have time to go around the room, so keep them brief. Lynn.
Yeah, I kind of want to bring up an unanswerable that we haven't talked about yet that I know of. The play's title and Bianca's line at the end about the snares that women set for women. I mean, I love this play, but I'm really troubled by the fact that there's those things, the title and that speech of Bianca's that try to skew it towards blaming women for everything that goes wrong. I mean, the female characters have an amazing amount of agency in this play, and that's actually very exciting. But yeah, women beware women. Oh, the snares that women set for women, as if like the Duke didn't set this whole thing in motion by raping someone. As if Leantio didn't have his part in creating an unsustainable situation by eloping with a woman who was not economically or socially appropriate. Is this play supposed to be sort of a morality play aimed at women, or is it actually sort of interrogating that assumption?
I think the answer to a degree is yes. Is that you can go in either direction on that. And I mean, it depends on how ironic you think the title is. It is also within a time when this kind of discussion is going on a lot. There's a historical moment thing about that title and about what some of these things are saying. And but maybe it's more a question of women beware, women who have swallowed the patriarchy whole, because that's the problem. It's the system the women are within, where they are basically pitted against each other. And your production can say that. Potentially, even if the play doesn't always say that. This is always the problem with the Matrix, whether you have different characters who do different things, some of which are contradictory. Does the Matrix of the play and your production allow for enough wiggle room on that? Very briefly, Sarah, then we will close.
Yeah, I have nothing to add about in terms of an answer to that question, because there's so many different ways you could take it. But I do think it's interesting that it's Bianca who says that line, and not Isabella, because like just on a really obvious note, they are the two women who kill each other. They are the two who are pitted against each other. Bianca really, all her tribulations come from the men around her, not from the women, really. So I think it's really interesting that Middleton chose to put that line into her mouth, and it doesn't make it any. I mean, it just complicates matters even further. But it's just, yeah, he didn't have to. If he wanted to call the play that, if he wanted to put that up, he could have given that line to someone. There were other more obvious characters to give it to, and he chose not to.
I mean, it's almost just one word too long. It's just women beware. Repeat. Women beware, women beware, women beware, and it becomes women beware women. That's how I design my poster anyway. So that's it for this session. This is a massive play. There's so much more to say about it. I'm sure we will say more about it in the future. And I'm sure you're very high probability that you'll find a production of this at some point within your lifetime, if not by us, but by other people. It's one of my one of the plays that still sort of edges onto what we might call a modern canon, even though modern canons don't really exist anymore. All that remains is to say, if you'd like to join us, you can join us. This is open to all. Go to beyondshakespeare.org, find the sign up page, and just sign up to do some of these in the future. It's open to all, and we do this for most of the year, apart from when we take occasional breaks. But now all that remains is for me to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. The shaft's deadly.